What does it mean?
Kahaani basically means stories. So essentially, I started Kahaani Collective as like an open learning and development platform, I want to say. Well, in the Indian community, sometimes we're unnecessarily competitive with each other.
We are very competitive with each other.
And there's a lot of gatekeeping going on. I've seen that both in, well, actually more in the creative industries and the professional industries. So guarded about, oh, I worked so hard to be an influencer with like 100K. I'm not going to share any of my information. Or like...
Yeah.
On Instagram nowadays, you get like influencers or content creators, whatever they want to call themselves. It's just ad after ad after ad. Like when you call yourself a content creator and you pride yourself in your creativity, I feel like we should empower people to be a bit more creative. Maybe we need to take the stigma away from just admitting that you work in advertising, but that's what you do. You don't really share who you are 100%.
There was one thing I clocked onto when this strong view you had in regards to, like, say, dance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Rough.
Yeah.
This is the epitome of taking the piss with dancers, because I've done things free before. A lot of talented people have done things for free before, and I just don't think it just needs to stop. I think the second I posted about it, we were both like, yeah, this is going to make some change. And I don't know if you saw, but it made the news. It was like all over India. It had a much bigger impact than I thought it could, just because I use my platform to be opinionated.
But I welcome everyone to another episode of the Unfltered Podcast, where we take the eye out of unfiltered and put the emphasis directly on you. This is the one platform where we get to take down our filters and have raw, authentic and vulnerable conversations in regards to the challenges that we're all facing today. Now, if you're a fan of the unfiltered nature of this podcast and you want more of these conversations that I have on the show to be normalized, why don't you help me help you to get more guests on and to have those difficult conversations in regards to the challenges we're all facing? I have to know what it is that you specifically want us to speak about. So if it isn't too much to ask, why don't you hit that subscribe button right now? And at the end of the episode, if it's been a hit for you, if it's hit home, why don't you leave a thumbs up and leave a cheeky review in regards to what specifically resonates with you. Now, with that all being said and done, let's get straight back into the episode.
Oh, we can talk about my new Kahaani Collective. So that's the new...
What's it called?
Kahaani
Collective.
Yeah. Do you understand Hindi?
I don't, but...
okay. Kahaani basically means like stories.
Okay. And you're going to keep it... Oh, no, I thought that was your AirPod in.
What?
On this side. I thought that was your AirPod. I was thinking...
Rude.
On this side, it looks white. It looks like it's just plugged in. I was like, what's going on?
No.
Oh, jeez.
I actually have someone in my ear, right?
That's it. Just telling me. Oh, dear. All right, cool. Yeah, let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
Kahaani Collective.
Yeah. Is it rolling?
Yeah, it's rolling.
Cool. Okay.
What does it mean?
Kahaani basically means stories. And it was kind of a brainchild I had a couple of months ago about the fact that we don't really have an inclusive space in the Indian community. Sometimes we're unnecessarily competitive with each other.
We are very competitive with each other.
And there's a lot of gatekeeping going on. I've seen that both in, well, actually more in the creative industries and the professional industries, because I feel like we're a lot more open in the professional side and we've got a lot of networks going on. But specifically in the creative space, like people are like so guarded about, oh, I worked so hard to be an influencer with like 100K. I'm not going to share any of my information, or like... It's like there's enough space for everyone basically, and if your USP is really just you, then you shouldn't feel bad about sharing your advice with anyone.
This is I hear it.
So essentially, I started Kahaani Collective as like an open learning and development platform, I want to say. Well, I want it to end up being a platform, but at the moment it's just a space to have events and conversations and things like that where people can share their experiences, their advice. And one thing I'm really trying to like ensure is that like every event that I hold, we have like a workshop. So there will be maybe half an hour, 45 minutes where we actually get people practicing what they've just learned so that they can walk away with the skill and just being like, I can apply it to my real life. So
you're doing that alongside working your role in consulting as well?
Yeah. Alongside that, alongside running my page and alongside being a dancer as well. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I've seen the dance. I've seen the dance. You got moves. Okay. Fair play. Yeah, that is a lot. And like, just out of curiosity, long term for you, is it going to be treated like a side project, or is it going to be something like you would love to invest a lot of your time and energy into?
I would love to invest a lot of my time and energy because I think it does have the ability to grow.
Yeah.
But I'm really big on not going into anything with a business mindset immediately. I know there's a lot of like, you know, improvement and growth and all of this, like, oh, build your wealth, build your assets and stuff. But just sometimes if you start with an authentic idea and you let that snowball and people actually feel drawn to it because of the authenticity, then it will just turn into what it needs to.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like I started with, like, say, this podcast and the style of coaching I'm into right now.
Yeah.
Being unfiltered and showcasing that whilst balancing work and everything else I was going on with, and treating this kind of like as just a fun space to just have deep conversations.
Yeah.
And then slowly you're having people listening to it, wanting to work with the guests that have come on privately behind the scenes. It's worked as I would say like a form of marketing, where someone's been like, yo, I really like that. I feel like I resonate with it. Can we talk about it in a little bit more depth?
Yeah.
And so like it does have that snowball effect. So you're basically running your own unfiltered space right now, just with events and stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of be like live podcasts, so that people come and they can like engage in the conversation as well. Because I'm sure like if we had a live audience in front of us right now, people would have lots of thoughts.
Exactly. No, and this is something I want to get into.
Very good.
I'm planning it in the new year where I've got a couple of venues lined up. It's just going through the logistics in regards to whether or not it's just me talking on stage, doing like a Q&A, or is it a case of having a panel of people just talking about stuff. So I'll keep you in mind because at the moment it's the angle we're possibly going down with, like, let's say the men's mental health route.
Yeah.
But I do feel there are, especially with my audience being women and the clients I work with.
Mainly women?
Well, my clients are women. I specialize in say I work with women only. I do work with guys, but it's gone down that route where everything I'm putting out, even like with comments I get on TikTok, the DMs that come through, you're not getting many guys open up, but you're getting women reach out and saying, yeah, my boyfriend's like this, my husband's like this, or I'm struggling with this. I feel like you understand it. Can we chat about it in a bit more depth? And I'm like, yeah, of course, let's have a chat.
Do you think men just don't admit when they need it though? Is that why?
There's an element of that. And also there's an element of men aren't allowed to. And it's like, I know, for instance, I can meet up with my boys, go to the pub, and if one of us gets deep, we'll all hold space.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Are you allowed to hold space? Are you allowed to talk about your stuff? That's another thing that comes up. Sometimes we might banter it about and we just don't go into it. But the minute someone, you can see it within their eyes that they're going through something, the dynamics just change. But if you're programmed to believe that you're not really allowed to talk about your shit, it's just banter it off or just laugh about it. You're never going to actually talk about it.
Do you think, sorry, I'm not interviewing you.
No, this is good. This is good.
Do you think it's easier for like brown men to hold space for others or like request other people to hold space for them?
I think it's easier for brown men to hold space, just difficult to request it.
Yeah, fair. To be honest, I think I feel the same because I'm like, I went through a whole thing last year where I was in therapy and everything, and I realized that I don't open up to my friends, but I consistently want to support them.
You do.
And like my friends even raised it with me, which I really appreciated, that like me being more open with them only makes them understand me more. So it's not like I'm being a burden on anyone. It's just that like they literally can't connect with me and understand who I am if I don't complain to them and like seek their advice on things. But I've always thought of it as like a weakness, right?
You still see it as a weakness?
I used to. I'm trying now actively to be like, oh, I'm going through something right now. Let me just unload onto a friend and get their advice and everything, and like connect with them on a deeper level that comes from me as well as like them just complaining about their day or getting my advice and everything. I say complain, but you know, like
I get it.
Seek that kind of solace in someone.
So what is it that you've discovered or now starting to do differently?
I'm more active in reaching out to my friends. Usually I like only reach out when there's good things or when I'm having fun or like when like for fun, like funny stuff basically.
Yeah.
But now if I am thinking something that's like sad or I'm overwhelmed with something, for example, and I can't manage my workload, I do just speak to my friends when I'm going through it. And they like, at the end of the day, everyone loves giving advice. So I don't understand why like I was refraining from giving my friends the opportunity to give their advice for so long.
Could be conditioned that way, right? We're conditioned that way to hold space and not really talk about our shit that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned you did therapy, right? And that's facilitated you now being able to be a bit more braver and just talk about X, Y, Z that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think. Have you done therapy before?
I'm doing it now. I love it.
Awesome. Basically, I went into therapy. I've started and stopped it a couple of times. Firstly, I was in like uni and I had a white therapist and she did not understand anything that was going on. I would tell her about my parents and she'd be like, that's really bad.
From a cultural perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
Someone I spoke to said a similar kind of thing.
I think I was mentioning the fact that my parents were so like, it was in between semesters and they were like very controlling from a white 20-year-old's perspective. But for an Indian, like having complete accountability to my parents, telling them where I'm going, like keeping them included in every part of my life, that's normal for 20. And she didn't really understand that. And she was kind of like, that's kind of narcissistic or like it's a bit overwhelming. And I was like, no, I do need to keep them in the loop. I'm only 20. And culturally, like I'm not out of their care yet, if that makes sense. So I kind of stopped that.
Yeah.
And then
just told her, shut up. You don't
basically,
get it.
I just never saw her again. I ghosted her. But it was like through university. It was like a counselling thing. So it wasn't something like professional. And then last year I looked up South Asian therapists because I was like, okay, I actually want to get serious about this now. And I'm a strong believer that everyone should go through therapy before they like settle down and have kids and things like that. And I kind of went into it thinking that it's like a doctor consultation where like you go in, you talk about what you want, you after a few sessions you walk away feeling like enlightened or whatever. But one thing that everyone overlooks and does not realize is that the whole like first half of therapy is just getting your shit out on the table. And you don't walk away feeling better. You literally walk away being like, oh my God, I'm more of a mess than I thought. So that feeling of like satisfaction didn't come until way down the line. Do you agree?
So I would say I'm a bit different because obviously being a coach and I've done a lot of work with coaches. So I've done a lot more of the personal development stuff behind the scenes. So coaching for me and like doing a lot of like the self-work, like NLP and stuff like that I've done, it gave me a better understanding in regards to like my self-worth and my limiting beliefs and all of this stuff. So now I've walked into therapy with the mindset that I just want to have a space to talk about stuff and have you possibly open my eyes to what I might be not taking on board and seeing. I don't want really action steps. I just want to complain.
Yeah, fair.
I just want to just vent right now in regards to like, why am I feeling like this? And is there anything that you can pull out? So a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is like imposter syndrome. And like I've done an episode which is going to be released this week, but this will obviously come out a little bit later. And having this particular person make me feel uncomfortable, where like towards the back end of that particular call, I was just very angry. And then I put my like jumper over myself and I just started like crying a little bit. And he's asked questions. Is it all right? Have we gone overboard? I said, no, this is what I'm fucking paying you for. Yeah. But it was fucked. And it was like, unfortunately, I had stuff to do after, so I couldn't really stay on the call long. But we then made sure we tapped back into it. And it's just some of the smaller exercises that like he's saying, look, I'm not your coach. So I'm not going to tell you you should be doing this. But respectfully, start applying it in your own way whenever it feels right and see what happens. It's changed my perspective on a lot of things completely. Just having that person there that I can touch base with in regards to a shit week, a great week, or whatever. Yeah. And there's been times where I've sat there and I don't know what to talk about. And he said, all right, let's just start with this. And then all of a sudden you go off tangent and you realise there's so much to unpack.
Yeah, you almost don't realise that you've never spoken about yourself for like 45 minutes straight or an hour straight. And I found that so unnerving to start with because I was like, I'm such a conversationalist. I love to ask people about what their thoughts are, and it's always back and forth. And I enjoy doing that. That it was so weird to have a therapist and not be able to be like, what do you think? What about your childhood?
So, like, you stopped therapy now?
Yes. Firstly, it was actually really expensive, so I had to just like take a break. Which is another point, like the fact that it's such a luxury to be able to do it as well.
So I had this convo with someone who came on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And they talked about like, in terms of like building their business and stuff, they mentioned that when it comes to investing in yourself, the long-term rewards that come on the back end of it, like if you knock yourself right now and aren't allowing yourself to get that assistance, if you feel like it's going to serve and add value, you're only shooting yourself in the foot essentially. Yeah. And so, albeit it might be expensive, and in your case, I don't know like who, if you're working with them privately, or if there was a service provider. If it's that important to you, you'll find a way.
I absolutely do want to go back to it. I think I'm just taking it in phases.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, that phase was just me understanding myself a lot better, because I didn't do the pre-reading. I didn't like reflect on myself. I thought I was reflective, but the levels that I was able to reflect on after those conversations with her was so much deeper. So I took a break because it was really overwhelming.
Fine.
And then obviously, like I said, money is a factor.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to go back to it having digested everything, and just being like, okay, now I do have a better understanding of myself. I want to think about like, how can I be a better person? So I think it's obviously like a personal journey, right? Like there's no right way to do it.
No, of course.
And people are in therapy for like 5 years continuously sometimes, and they still don't feel the value of it. I feel like there's just no.
There is that argument, because it's like, again, I've had people I've spoken to who have now become clients have said therapy was shit. And it's like, well, maybe you just had the wrong therapist, or maybe you just weren't able to unpack certain things, and what you needed at the time was a coach versus therapy, because offloading wasn't helping you. What was going to help you is you get to the root and you possibly take some action steps for this short term, and then possibly look at having therapy after, just to revisit certain things if necessary. But I do agree. I don't like telling people you definitely need to like experiment with therapy, because again, it's like whether or not you feel comfortable having those conversations to begin with. But it's definitely something I would encourage people to try and explore when the time feels right.
100%. Yeah. I just think, especially maybe that's like my own trauma though. Like my parents, I feel like they really could have benefited from it before having kids. So I'm like a strong ambassador for doing therapy before you have kids, at least like once or twice to get an idea of where you are mentally.
Well, my mum even asked me like, what have you spoken about? Like, what's wrong with you? Not like rudely, but she'll be like, what's wrong? Like, why are you speaking to a therapist? I'm like, I don't even know. Something might not be wrong. It could be business focused one day. It could be dating and romance focused the next day. And then after, it could just be family focused. Yeah. Or just because I'm feeling like shit. Nothing to do with anything. It's just me. I'm just feeling numb today. And maybe he might be able to unlock something for me. So, and I've learned a shitload, which I've been trying to apply. And weirdly enough, like the things that he's put out there, I feel like with my line of work, everything can be quite applicable in regards to like that same phrase to my clients. So whatever he's asked me or said to him, are you going through this similar right now? Okay, cool. Just rephrase it like this, and all of a sudden they might start to digest it and be like, yeah. So it's one of those ones, like everyone's going to have their love-hate relationship with it. At the moment, I'm all for it, but best believe like, and my guy isn't Indian.
Okay, yeah.
But weirdly takes me to a place where I can really get unfilled with it. So I'm very thankful for that. Alongside therapy, the other avenue I wanted to like go down with you at some point, I know we just completely diverted from it, was stuff you've recently been talking about on the space of influences and social media. And I think we did it before, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of similar, but obviously things have changed since then. And I find it actually quite interesting because like, I don't know whether or not you would call yourself an influencer or not, but you have, with the words you say, the engagement you have, you are delivering a very, very important message to people who are on board with regards to what you have to say. But you also have very opposing views to what everyone else might be doing within this space right now. Let's dig into that a little bit. Let's get unfiltered with like what your real beef is.
I don't have beef. I think I just have a love-hate relationship with social media in general. Yeah. And the algorithm and everything that it stands for, basically. And I don't blame the people that are pandering to it, because it's just a job at the end of the day, and you've got to play the game. But I, like, for example, I just recently hit 10K, which I'm very happy about. Jeez. But I like took a break from social media a year or two ago. I've come back to it since August this year. And the fact that I've hit 10K, especially without doing any ads, anything, like, it means a lot to me that, like, people, if they see a message that they actually believe in, they will follow you. You don't have to be like a walking billboard to have people believe in you. I think inevitably, obviously, like, it is still a business model at the end of the day. I will probably do ads at some point, but I am really conscious that I only want to do ads that like benefit my followers, and it's not inauthentic.
Yeah.
And it's just because like on Instagram nowadays you get like influencers or content creators, whatever they want to call themselves. It's just ad after ad after ad. Like, at what point do you stop being an influencer and just, like I said, be working in advertising?
Don't you think though that like social media has now opened this space for creative people to not follow what was the norm, i.e. go down a standard university degree and career route, and possibly explore this creativity or this talent that they have?
100%. But that's where I think that was the point I was actually making in my story, where the creativity is the important part. Like, if you get given a product and you take a video of yourself talking about the product, that's not creativity. Like, I follow actually some really good influencers. Like, there are a couple in India especially where they have like the old filmy cameras, whatever product they get sent, they build into their niche and they take really creative videos with it. They put so much time and effort and energy into the editing and the colors and everything. And like that, I respect so much, because you're taking your passion, your actual creativity, and using it for advertising purposes.
For sure. But then surely if the brand is asking you to talk about it in this capacity and this is what they're looking for, it's a side job in regards to whatever it is you're doing on your page, right?
Yeah, that's the brand's fault, because I've seen some of the like proposals that come through and they're literally like, you have to use these words, you have to use these hashtags, you have to do exactly this, like these are the shots you need to get. And maybe it's the brand's fault for like limiting creativity in that sense as well.
There's an element of that, but then it takes two to tango. And so like, for instance, when I get like sponsorship for this podcast and like a brand says, look, we need you to just pitch it from this angle. Yes, I could put my own unfiltered spin on it. And if they're not a fan of it, of course it's not going to land. It's not going to work. So the first brand I think of is like Manscaped. Now, I've heard of Manscaped on a number of different podcasts. Okay. Do you know what Manscaped is? No. Okay, cool. You're not going to like this at all. So basically, when I first heard about it, they created stuff for men's balls.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the shavers, the deodorant, the toners. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I obviously was like, let me just dabble in it. There was like 30% discount. Let me just see what it's all about. But I hear every single podcast you talk about it. And it's like they've all got their weird different spin on it, which makes me believe that Manscaped are probably not giving them a script to use, but just saying this angle's working, keep running with it.
Yeah.
So you have brands like that which allow you to just say what you got to say. And then you've got other brands which are basically asking you to just pitch it from a marketing perspective, just say X, Y, and Z, please, and let it be that. And so I do hear what you're saying, but if you don't want the income that they're possibly going to provide, that's kind of on you. So in that space, it's kind of asking yourself the question, what is it that you really want from this?
That's the thing. So that's where, I don't blame people for pandering to it, because that is the career path. That is the method to make money in that industry. So that's what you have to do. But when you call yourself a content creator and you pride yourself in your creativity, I feel like we should empower people to be a bit more creative in that sense.
Maybe it's a message for content creators to then take upon themselves. And I feel like I don't want to use like age as a barrier towards it, because there are some people who are quite experienced and have worked on the marketing side of things and are now influencing, so they've got enough understanding of how that business model works. But there does come a point in regards to like where you either do what I'm pretty much doing and just keep it very unfiltered and say it as it is, and if you want to work with me, great, and if you don't, tough. Or you look at it from an angle where if this is your only stream of income that's coming through and it's paying the bills, because I think we spoke about it, like should you quit your 9 to 5 to live to follow your passions, right? It's a similar kind of concept. If this is going to be your bread and butter now, your creativity is going to be possibly hindered unless you are able to have that conversation to see whether or not you can marry up the two.
Yeah. It's just that I think when you don't have a distinguished niche and you're picking up every single ad that comes your way, like one day you're doing, I don't know, Sainsbury's, the next day you're doing Volkswagen, the next day you're doing like selling gold on the internet or like horoscopes or something.
Where's the correlation between
Where's the correlation? Like at this point, this is what I said, just admit that you work in advertising. That's also fine.
But no one's going to want to admit that, right? So I hear you're saying, I hear your angle on it. But like, I also look at it from a perspective where I'm like, if I'm going to double down on what you're saying, why aren't you trying to bring your authenticity and how you've built this audience into this product that you're trying to like market for, essentially? Yeah.
But I think that's where I have a very like
Different spin on it.
not different spin, but that I feel like I can see who are the content creators and who are just influencers that pick up ads.
Yeah.
Like people who put time and effort and care into the like content that they create. So there's a girl that I went to university with called Ambika. She has such an excellent way of like editing videos, like fashion videos and things like that. And she never like misses the mark with the content that she creates. And every single brand that's reached out to her, she always incorporates it into her style. But some of the other influencers that I've seen, it's just like you're literally just talking about a body butter and then you're talking about a car, like being like, this is my code, use it. There's no like...
Does that shit even work? I don't know if it works.
No, actually.
Because it gets me thinking, I'm like, if you're just constantly putting out ads, I'm going to want to, not to be rude, but probably mute you, because I came following you for a reason, because I loved what you were posting out there. And now if you're just showing me creams...
Use my affiliate link, like every single day it's a different affiliate link. And it's not even stuff that like your followers like.
Yeah.
It's just... Like I had someone reach out to me about... actually, I've had so many requests, by the way, but I literally don't agree with any of them. So I'm like, why would I bother with that? But someone reached out about like horoscope readings the other day. And I was like, I don't believe in horoscopes. So I really don't think I'm the right person to do this. I don't really mind how much you're offering me.
Yeah.
But why would I just be like, guys, go get your horoscopes checked out? Because I wouldn't be able to say a single authentic word about it.
I get it.
But New Balance reached out to me the other day, and I was like, these are my only trainers. And I have worn them for years, so 100%. Like that is something I can back.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But then, are you going to then put your own late afternoon thoughts spin on it?
Yeah, because people follow me for a certain type of content that makes them feel comfortable and warm and like makes them feel like they can really relate. What's the point in me being like, oh, follow me to London Fashion Week and use my affiliate link for New Balances? Like that's just so off my content.
There's an element of strategy involved, and I suppose if you want to keep it authentic, but then who does? Again, like now I've spoken about it with, I think, Delari and Rav. We talked about like how social media, the landscape's changed, and now you can make a career out of it. Respectfully, it's possibly just another marketing for advertising role that you're now able to do from the comfort from your home.
People should just be, maybe we need to take the stigma away from just admitting that you work in advertising, but that's what you do. You don't really share who you are 100%. Like I've met influencers in real life and they're very different.
Yeah.
So you put on a persona, you present yourself on the internet, you sell products. That's advertising.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
There's no right way, wrong way or anything, but I feel like I don't know what the best way to say it is. It's just like social media, influencing and content creating are very different things.
Yeah.
But everyone just calls themselves all three.
Yeah. I do hear it. And there are people I know who generally are quite adamant and passionate about not working with particular brands because they're not out here for a paycheck. They wear what they want to wear. They showcase what they want to showcase. And if it adds support and it adds value, great. But they're not out here to like try and differ from their message that they originally put out and the audience that it then attracted. But I do hear it. I suppose, yeah.
But like I said, it's not beef.
It's not. Money talks for some people.
Yeah, I have a different take on what social media is. And I mean, that the fact that like you need to have these catchy hooks and prompts, and my whole explore page is like 15 hooks you can use this month or trending sounds and everything. It's like we're turning reels into Cocomelon for adults.
And this is what people have told me. Like, if you want to get more clients on board and you want to be like killing it, you need to have hooks. I'm like, but then that just takes away from like the message I'm trying to deliver. Like, I'm not trying to reel people in just for a view or for a like.
Yeah.
What I want people to do is to hear me and think, fuck, I'm going through that. And if it takes a minute and a half to get to that message, am I losing that? And they said, well, there's a way you can edit it possibly.
Yeah.
But if your main form of marketing right now is going to be through social media, you're going to have to think of by how the consumer sees it. Because if on TikTok and you're just scrolling, you're not going to want to be engaged in something which could be very, very important for them.
Yeah.
If they don't really know much about you. So if TikTok puts out your stuff to like, I think it's 200 or 300 people initially from the offset within like the first hour.
Oh, really?
If it doesn't slap within that space, it doesn't get pushed out any further.
And it's like you have to catch people's attention in the first 3 seconds or something. And that itself is so forced. Like you said, I obviously take videos of me talking to the camera or like doing voiceovers and stuff. And I don't talk like insanely fast. So sometimes I see I catch myself just re-recording to talk a bit faster so that I can squeeze everything I want to say into a minute or a minute and a half. And honestly, like, have you seen the professional dashboard part of like...
Yeah.
It gives you some advice sometimes, like tips and things. And Instagram literally says if your video is more than a minute and a half, we won't push it out to the explore page. Like,
what are you meant to do? But then you see some videos that do go quite viral because there are 2-3 minute video explaining something, and it's like, because the message is so deep, it hits home.
But I feel like the chance of that is so low because of the algorithm.
Yeah, it's weird. Like recently, one of my TikTok videos did very well for me, and it literally was me just talking about marriages and cheating and expectations. And I don't know what it was about that, but I knew it was powerful because I thought all my conversations on the podcast are very powerful, and some of them I've done relatively okay, etc. But this just carried on going and going, and on one platform it doesn't do well. The other platform it skyrocketed, and you're getting comments and people now DMing you and message you and saying this is what I'm going through, and then you've got people doubling down on those comments and agreeing with each other, and it's like, the algorithm is going to keep doing what it's going to keep doing. You could follow trending sounds, trending topics, all of this shit. You could change the lighting, this, that, and the other. I've seen shit videos do really well. People doing dance videos and that goes viral. And it's like, what is this? When I go on my TikTok now, I'm getting TikTok shops just keep popping up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it continuously is going to change. But in regards to you staying relevant on a platform, I feel like that just kind of depends on what you're there to do. If you really want to like sell a product or sell a brand or market yourself, you're going to have to just follow what the algorithms are doing, unfortunately.
I catch myself sometimes just being like, just pushing videos out that don't really have that much meaning. But I know like I need to stay consistent. I need to post every other day or something. Well, I only do like twice a week because every other day is just insane. But sometimes I'll post a video that's like 5 seconds long. I posted a video the other day of my boyfriend and my sister to the chill guy theme or something. And it's like, they were wearing the same outfit. That has got almost 500,000 views. And something that I pour my heart and soul into writing and creating and whatever.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. It's really frustrating to see, especially when you are like a content creator.
But you then have to like not get caught up in those numbers.
Yeah.
And dial it back in and remind yourself like that video you've poured your heart into, what effect has that had on the person watching into it versus this trend that just popped up.
Yeah, that's so accurate. Like, I'm trying to tell myself that every single time because that is the more important thing.
It's a difficult one. It is a difficult one. And like, you're going to experience this as you carry on within this space. Like, there was one thing I clocked onto when since you've been back was this, I wouldn't call it an episode, but let's just say this strong view you had in regards to, like, say, dance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Rough.
Yeah, and like when I read what you put out there, I was thinking to myself, damn, it's a bit peak for these dancers out here who are doing these shows, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad someone is being very unfiltered in regards to the experience she's had and trying to make a difference in regards to the wider scene. But for some people listening into you, the fuck are you talking about? We don't care. We just want to be on stage. Good for you. And for the others, it's like, no, we need this voice. And it's not going to land with everyone. But for those who are listening into your content, thinking, I'm with you.
Yeah. That's the thing. So I did get a lot of backlash from it, but I also got so much support. I would say maybe it was like 80% support, 20% hate. And that, I think, really positioned me being like, you know what, I will stay opinionated because these are opinions people share. And if I can just be a voice. And I think it's just the fact that, like, so me and my friend went through the same thing. I have a bigger platform than she did. I knew I was going to speak about it. And I think the second I posted about it, we were both like, yeah, this is going to make some change. And I don't know if you saw, but it made the news. It was like all over India. it was really weird. I was getting a lot of people reaching out, but it had a much bigger impact than I thought it could, just because I use my platform to be opinionated. And I feel like people shouldn't shy away from that. Like, obviously cancel culture is huge, but my whole thing is that I'm opinionated, and
but that's the beautiful part of it.
yeah.
Like what you put out there, because I knew people who were performing for this particular person, right? And I've been following them for a while. And I'm like, that's sick. You're on stage. It's amazing. And if you've got one opposing person saying, well, this is what they're pretty much paying us to do this, it's a bit peak too. But for each individual right now, one's looking at it from an angle where you're taking the piss, and the other one's looking at, this is a great opportunity. This is going to open up so many other doors for me. I'm definitely going to jump on it.
Yeah.
And it's like when I first started coaching, it's the same kind of thing. Initially, I started offering free sessions to begin with, because you want to get it's a bit of word of mouth.
Yeah.
Get Uncle Pre out there, and then eventually over time you're able to start justifying your worth, right? You've come in at an angle right now where you know what you bring to the table, and you're possibly speaking for a lot of these people who want to talk about it, just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And they're in this dilemma: do I pass up on this opportunity, or do I not? It happens everywhere. I think it was quite sick what you did.
Thank you. It was like hard to decide whether I was going to speak about it or not, because the artist is quite big.
Oh, it's massive.
But I did, like, I feel very passionately about regulations and like the protection you have in the dance industry. And FYI, there is none. Like, there is no standard. There is no, like, exposure pays for everything apparently. And this particular gig, obviously, it was like O2 sellout event and everything, like, and multiple arenas all over Europe. But we were paid £80, and we had to pay for our own flights, accommodation, and be expected to like rehearse on our own time and everything. And I just thought, like, this is the epitome of taking the piss with dancers, because I've done things free before. A lot of talented people have done things for free before, and I just don't think it just needs to stop.
Yeah, I think like, and this is like the nitty gritty part of it as well. There's a team behind, so I don't want to take anything away from the artist in particular.
Yeah,
because I love the artist's music.
I agree. I don't think the artist had much to do or say with it.
But you have a team who possibly have a budget or have a way of where they can ensure profits, etc., etc., and this is the way they're going to go about it. And it's kind of like, well, you can say no, but we've got a bunch of these people that are definitely on board. So for you, it's a problem. For them, it's not.
Yeah.
Why are we going to try and make it work for everyone when it definitely works for the group that we need up here today? And that's kind of like the catch-22 that comes with all of this stuff,
It is. It sparked a lot of conversation about like what we should do to band together, as like, obviously if everyone is striking and some people are like, no, I'm fine with the shit pay or whatever, then it kind of negates the
It is. It's like
impact
train strikes are the exact same.
Exactly. So I feel like it's a political thing that is a reoccurring like narrative. So we just need to band together a bit more. But yeah, it sparked a lot of really good conversations. In terms of progress, I don't know, but maybe it's a tiny step.
Regardless of whether it's a tiny step or it's a massive step, I think what you should take on board on the back end of that is, for those who have agreed with you and have possibly taken a stand, you made a difference. And you should pride yourself on that difference. Like every video I put out where someone turns around and says, that hit home. Thank you. Or every unfiltered coaching experience I hold where I might not even work with that person.
Yeah.
The thank you I get on the back end of it, like, you've made me see things so differently. I appreciate that.
That means
long
more
term
than like 100,000 views.
Look, I'd love to work with you, but sometimes I can't work with you. Maybe you can't afford it. Maybe it's a case of this isn't what you need right now. But being able to hold that space and make a difference goes such a long way, and it will pay itself later down the line.
Yeah.
Like what you've done right now might have a knock-on effect in a couple of years' time, and look, there might be a change for all dancers, and it's all because of you. So it's looking at that long-term picture versus just worrying about like, oh shit, am I going to piss off a couple of people? Yeah, you probably will.
You can't. I don't think you can avoid that.
You can't. When I go into like some deep sensitive stuff around like say dating and stuff like that, I know for a fact I'm so opinionated it's going to piss someone off. It might piss off an ex. It might piss off people I've dated. It's not my intention. Respectfully, though, I'm trying to speak to a wider audience and encourage a different movement, but it is what it is. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. With what going into that though, because I feel you being an opinionated and that working with this unfiltered space, how have you coped moving forward? And what I mean by that, with like saying what you've said, getting quite vocal about it, and like it going viral in India and making news and stuff. reason why I'm asking that is because I feel like a lot of people from a very, very small scale are scared to be opinionated at home, are scared to talk about things to their partner because of the backlash of what might happen. You've done it in your own angle and you've had the backlash and you're still here. How have you managed to navigate your way through that? Just to encourage anyone who's listening right now to take similar steps.
I think number one disclaimer is that you know your home situation best. So safety is utmost importance. So like assess whether you actually are in a position to speak out and be opinionated. I think that's really important, especially for a lot of women. But secondly, just the world is not going to fall apart if you provide your opinion. And like this might be a bit deep, but I feel like a lot of people can relate. Like back when I was a kid and I would talk back or whatever, my parents used to like use physical forms of punishment.
Yeah, you got clapped. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
it
everyone
is
can
what it is.
relate. So after a certain point, though, I was a bit too grown for them to do that to me. So then I was like, you know what? Like, what are you going to do? So I was...
I can just picture like 5 foot you just turn it out.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my height has been an advantage. But, yeah, after a certain point, I was like, obviously a rebel for like talking back. And Indian parents have this mindset of like, because I said so. So they don't want to justify why they're making you do something. But for me, it was more that I wanted to understand where this is coming from. If it's a value or moral that I align with. And I always want to know why I'm doing something. And I feel like that challenging why you're doing something, why you're being told to do something is just the best place to start. For example, a career path. Are you doing it because someone's just nudged it your way and you're like, oh, I suppose I will? Or are you being like, okay, do I actually want to be a doctor or an engineer? What about it is fulfilling to me?
Yeah.
And you need to like, so that is one message I definitely want to promote. Critical thinking. Just, there are two outcomes of it. One is you double down on the fact that, yeah, actually, this is what I really want. And then you know authentically it's your idea. Or you realize that it's not for you. And you also know that that decision that it's not for you comes from you. And I feel like when something is in your control, you are much less likely to resent it later in life because you can't blame anyone for it.
I hear it.
And you have ultimately made that decision to carry out your life exactly how it is. And I've made mistakes, but I wouldn't regret a single one of them because regardless of all the backlash, like it's my decision. I feel like I've veered off the topic completely.
Nah, it's cool because like you mentioned at the beginning, you talked about like say safety, like be obviously cautious around it. I feel like that's the biggest blocker though.
Yeah, because for some people it's just like being told off with a high volume, let's say.
Let's talk about like someone's relationship right now.
Yeah.
You're in a marriage and you possibly can't say something to your husband or your wife in
Yeah.
regards to possible backlash or your in-laws or whatever your situation is. That element of safety becomes so much of a blocker where then you suffer in silence. And like your blocker with this dance situation was you could have got cancelled.
Yeah.
No one could have said yes to you. But you wanted to say your piece and hopefully just try and uplift change. And you've managed to do that in your own way, right? And I can appreciate from a safety element of it, you do want to be somewhat cautious and somewhat aware of in regards to like your environment. But that shouldn't stop you, because it didn't stop you. It shouldn't stop you reaching out and getting a form of assistance or reaching out to people who are readily available to help you out.
So one thing I will say is like I'm by no means in the pro league with dance. I'd say like mid-tier at best. But people who are in the pro league were probably the most afraid to reach out. I mean, be opinionated, because that career is their main thing. And being opinionated about something like this would get them cancelled and they wouldn't be able to pay their bills anymore.
Yeah.
And that is that safety aspect. You lose your stability, you lose your job essentially for having a view on something. So it doesn't have to be like physical safety. It's just that stability of like life. Like you're going to risk your entire life by having an opinion on something. So yeah, I think you do need to assess like.
This is where we get juicy with it though.
Yeah.
Because it's like, then do you want to then play ball and possibly continue, in this case, making ends meet from the stance perspective when you possibly could be doing a lot more? if you said what you had to say. Because if people cancelled you, some people might still be on board. And you've got this limited mindset where everyone's going to say no on the back end of it.
Yeah,
They might. But if every dancer then agreed, what would happen then? But we look at it from the limited mindset where now if I try and like dial it into like people's personal shit that's going on, like you stood up to your parents and started saying your piece, and look, they couldn't do anything after a certain age. And for people who are struggling right now in toxic relationships, whether that's personal, romantic, whatever it is, you can reach out. And that's what I try to encourage. With what I spoke about on this TikTok about like marriages, people cheating, expectations, etc. Like the number of people that responded back saying, I can't, it's just physically impossible. With my kids in the situation, I can't walk out. I'm like, no. Walking out might not be the solution right now, but being able to talk about what you're going through so that you feel somewhat uplifted will make the biggest difference in this short period of time right now. Don't limit yourself from actually reaching out to someone. It's good you've commented right now, and I'm all grand for you like doing that, and I encourage you to carry on engaging where you can. But don't feel like you're stuck, because that's the worst feeling.
But this is, in terms of relationships,
Yeah,
especially women probably feel that way more. And that's why I think it's so important for women to be financially stable. I don't care if you actually want to be a housewife and like just look after things around the home, and that's what you naturally are inclined to do, but be financially stable. Have a career that you can go back to. Have some kind of experience, something on your CV, so that you're never in a position to be like, I can't leave this situation.
it's fucked. It is fucked because some people feel like they can't financially, but on the flip side of it, what it's going to do to the community, what it's going to look like, and the backlash you're going to get from people just downplaying you and saying nasty comments and stuff like that. And I feel like you're so secluded into this small picture of what people will say in your situation, realistically right now, regardless to whether you have a career or not, if you've got this backing financially or not. What's more important for you? Suffering for another 6 months or a year? Or taking that brave step right now to changing what your life could look like? And when I hear of like such power stories of people being able to navigate their way through tough times, it's come from taking that risk and putting themselves first. As difficult as it might sound, and it's easy me saying it in my privileged position, but what I try and encourage like my clients to do when you're in a tough situation, let's dig deep. I'm here with you. We're here to work together, but respectfully, let's start making a change, because what was the point of starting in the first place?
Yeah, are you talking in terms of like divorce and like leaving and stuff, or
everything in that personal relationship space? It's not even that, even like your career. If you feel like you're getting bullied at work, if you feel like you're not happy and people are really like hammering in on you and you're working stupid hours, you don't have to stay. Oh, but what can I do after? No, I know you feel that way, but respectfully, that doesn't mean you have to become self-employed. That means you could just find another job if necessary. Like, is it worth taking a pay cut right now to come home smiling to your family and to your kids? Is it worth taking a pay cut right now knowing that you're not stressed, you're not depressed, you're not beating yourself up, you're not insecure just because of how you've been treating in this one environment?
Yeah.
But we don't look at it from that angle because we're like, I should suck it up. No, you don't. You don't have to.
I don't know where that mentality comes from. Like, obviously, I know we have to survive and like you need to do any kind of job to make ends meet. I feel like that's the thing that's drilled into our heads. But this idea of like, don't, like, even if something doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Like, do it.
Yeah.
I don't know where in our ancestry or whatever that got.
I think it's that safety element. Because they, like, if I look at my grandparents and what they did, like working in factories and stuff like that, just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
There was no, what will make you happy? It was, this is what we got to do for the family, because that's always what's happened in the past, right? And so once that's ingrained within you, you naturally are brought up with a mindset where suck it up.
Yeah.
Be an investment banker, make all the money you want to, work your stupid hours, you'll be fine when you're 50.
Nah. Yeah.
What if you're depressed at 50? What if the person you're married to right now is someone that you're just sick of? Like, you haven't been there to facilitate her, or you haven't been there to facilitate him, and now we've got infidelity and people are cheating. Then what happens then?
Yeah. And on that relationships note, like, honestly, I can sit here and be like, I don't think I'm brave enough. Things might change, but I don't think I'm brave enough to ever go through a divorce.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Because not just the stigma or like backlash it would bring on me, but for my parents especially, like the way the community would view them. And that's probably like another driving factor for a lot of people. Like,
For sure.
I don't care what they say about me, but the fact that they're going to make my parents' lives hell and it's going to make things a lot more difficult for them in the community, that is a huge reason as to why I'm not leaving this toxic relationship.
But for how long would they possibly verbally or emotionally abuse your parents in whatever way this community does? How long would that happen for? Because in your head...
It's not like actual malicious, vindictive, direct attacks. It's more just like either digs or people talking about each other behind their
comments
back.
and all that stuff,
Yeah, comments and just kind of being excluded from the community a little bit, not being able to face people. I actually don't know, because I mean, things have happened in my past where my parents have like not been the proudest of me, but people have moved on now. So
And this is my point, right?
yeah,
That mindset is that like, oh, what are people going to say?
yeah,
Yeah, you're old news next week.
yeah.
Someone else is going through something and no one cares.
I think
Or-
it's just that confidence of like, you know what, and what, like you walk back into that community and be like the same person that you've been for the last like 20, 30 years.
Because I tried to tell someone this and I was like, if I don't believe in divorce and I don't think I would ever try and get myself divorced, but respectfully, if it happened, touch wood,
Yeah.
yeah, and people made a comment in regards to the fact that like now you're single, like why did you leave? Why didn't you try and make it work? I would tell them straight up. She cheated. I was depressed. I couldn't fulfill her. She couldn't fulfill me. We had problems. We couldn't communicate together. We both wanted different things. Whatever the reasoning was, and I'd make it very, very clear. And I'm like, and this is what I'm very different. If you can't understand that, that's totally fine. You're not meant to. But best believe right now, I was walking down a path where it wasn't worth living to be with that person anymore. Hence why I took this step to go down this route, unfortunately. I know I've got kids. But what they're going to realize from this situation right now, it's important that dad moved on for him and his health and his mental stability than being in something quite toxic, which was making him very angry.
Yeah.
Which is having him cry when he was at home, or him drinking a lot, or excessively doing other things like smoking, all that. Like, I'm teaching a lesson that put yourself first. So you might see it as negative. It might look bad in this community. Fuck your community then. Because if your community is more important than what I bring to the table and who I am as a person, what does that say?
Yeah. Because those things that you mentioned, most people, I can hear it already, would be like, that happens in every marriage. Like the way that Indian women stick with their husbands or husbands stick with Indian women, like through all of these things, and just being like, these kind of things happen in marriage, you suck it up. I feel like they can't conceptualize the idea that you can leave.
Yeah.
That's actually how you become a better parent than staying and making your kids see this day in, day out and build on their trauma because of that.
And because they haven't been educated on that front,
Yeah.
it creates that problem. Whereas now, I think my dad was trying to ask me the question, like, do you know what the divorce rate is right now? It happens so much more often than it ever has done.
Yeah.
Because people are now starting to realize the fact that like, this isn't making me happy. Some people do it for a financial gain, and that's a different topic altogether. But respectfully, once you realize that like there is no love here, and I've got maybe like 20, 30 years left, do I want to spend the rest of my life with you next to me in bed, or do I want to possibly be alone? Do I want to travel the world? Do I want to settle up shop somewhere else? Like, what is it I really want? And we're now allowing ourselves to have that empowerment to do our own thing. Unfortunately, these toxic relationships are getting split up, and yeah.
That's for the best, isn't it?
Yeah. And like, if you're with someone who generally wants to be with you, respectfully, if you want a divorce, I'm sure they'll find a way to try and work on themselves, whether or not that's something you also want to do as well. And that's when you'll start to see a shift in that person's behavior and the way they turn up. But if they don't want to, and they're like, well, fuck it then go enjoy the next 20, 30 years doing what you want to do.
In terms of that divorce rate as well, you've just reminded me, my parents and just everyone in the community used to always say this thing that's like, oh, the divorce rates with love marriages are so much higher than the divorce rates for arranged marriages. And they'd say it like, arranged marriages is this great thing and it just means you have stability lifelong. But like, it's like the point of staring them in the face and you can't see it. It's obviously that people feel more obliged to stay in these awful relationships than that they don't want to get divorced.
Yeah.
They do, but they stick it out because the parents are sitting on either side being like, oh, just suck it up, right?
But I know people who are suckered into it right now.
Yeah.
And they're in there because their partners provided a somewhat future for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to do much, and they've got certain commitments that they have to uphold with, and that's it. But I'm like, what's your life really like? It seems tragic. It doesn't seem fun.
Yeah.
Like, you have rules you have to follow, and weirdly, it seems like a dictatorship at home. One person does this, so you now have to follow. Like, that doesn't sound fun. That doesn't. Where's the love gone? Was there love to begin with? Like, I know you can't go back in time, but you can definitely change the next 5-10 years for yourself. I'm not trying to encourage people to get divorced.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do in this situation is speak up and talk about your shit,
Yeah,
and get unfiltered and be opinionated and see what can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing. Be opinionated and see what can happen. Sometimes it flies, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But the fact that you stood up for yourself is the most important thing.
And if nothing works, make it work for you. Change up the game completely.
Yeah.
How people do that, though, is, yeah.
Can I say one more point?
Yeah, hit it.
It might be a whole other thing. But on that, like, being opinionated, standing up for yourself, and what I said earlier, that critical thinking thing, I made a video about this as well, but you've seen Sweet Bobby, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like that is the most perfect example of why we should teach young women especially, but everyone, to just question things and stand up for yourself. Because otherwise, people go through life just accepting whatever is given to them. Like, you present them with the weirdest of situations, with the most, like, controlling situations and things like that. And they're just like, oh, I suppose this is how things are done. Okay. I mean, I can't go anywhere. I need to get married. I need to settle down. But the ability to just be like, no, something doesn't feel right, and I'm going to vocalize that, is just, like, it's going to save you so much.
I wish I worked with her time ago. But,
God.
Yeah. That show triggers me. Because
really?
I've got two different opinions on it.
Okay.
One, what the hell were you bloody doing? And two, like, I've been told, like, if you listen to the podcast and how she talks about it from a different angle, you hear a little bit more in regards to, like, what she was limited in regards to doing. But then that mindset that she had, she wasn't able to possibly voice it out differently and say, this feels a bit weird, this feels a bit strange, someone help me.
Yes.
Again, old traditions, old culture.
Yeah.
So I'm very opinionated on that, because I feel like she should have done a lot more differently. And I think in this world right now,
But some people aren't given that toolkit.
exactly my point. Exactly. So I sympathize, but I'm also thinking, all right, it went on for long enough now.
It was like 10 years or something, right?
When are you gonna, like, say, face facts that this could be generally catfish material? I feel sorry for her. She wasted, like, I think it was 10 to 12 years or something like that.
There's that pressure of, like, needing to settle down as well, which again, like, is...
Yeah.
I just don't think I think from a catfish perspective, which I don't promote whatsoever, but she was, like, the perfect target.
Yeah.
Because she had all of the complexity and trauma to, like, accept everything that catfish was providing.
And I think, though, like, now, and maybe, like, again, if you go back in time, maybe it wasn't as common. But right now we can understand that if someone's just purely just wanting to text or message, there could be a little bit of an inclination that, is this person even real?
Yeah, and the internet is... I feel
It's
like we're
a
a bit
very,
more
very,
savvy
yeah.
nowadays, but...
So, like I said, I do have sympathy for... I should really know her name, but I do have sympathy for this individual. Simran was the... Yeah, Simran was...
Hear it.
Yeah, that's it. Hear it, yeah. Simran is not the good one. But, yeah, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
It's definitely a separate conversation. But I know you said you got a jet. Yes. Where can everyone find you? Just plug in both platforms.
So, Late Afternoon Thoughts on Instagram. I am on TikTok, but TikTok is a bit of a mess. So, I'd say just go for Instagram. Late Afternoon Thoughts and the Kahaani Collective on Instagram as well.
Perfect.
Stay tuned, because we're launching in Jan.
Jeez, we'll plug them both in. And big thank you for coming through again.
No
very
worries.
much appreciated.
Always good chatting. I'm glad that we actually didn't script anything. We were just chatting anyway.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I'm glad you thought so.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you lot for listening to another episode of the Unfiltered Podcast. If you've liked what you listened today, drop us a like. If you've got any comments in regards to what we spoke about, if there's something you disagreed with, or there's stuff that you did agree with, drop us a comment. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed yet, give us a subscribe. Every subscribe goes a long way. And look, why wouldn't you subscribe? If you like the unfiltered nature of the podcast, surely you want to be in tune to whenever the next episode is coming out, right? Anywho, I'll catch you on the next episode of the Unfiltered Podcast. It's been your boy Pri, and I'm signing out. Peace.